Aujourd'hui, je vais parler de, well, what I would define as a super trooper. I'm curious whether this term has some equivalent in the world, in the real world today, and if so, I'm curious as to whether you are one of these people. Ayo, Zenpuck here. Obviously, well, I'm out of the workplace at this point, so yeah, no more literal work of any kind. And yet, recent life events still remind me of the kind of grind that so many young people face this very day, right? And one of those new internet fads that I internally, mentally rail against is this idea that you shouldn't do more than what you are specifically being paid for. I mean, it's not a heinous idea, right? Do what you're hired for, right? And yet, I have to say, if you follow that advice, well, you will never be considered a super trooper. And then I'm like, did I just make that term up? I don't know. Frankly, I don't really care because I still think it sounds funny, and that's all that really matters. So today's rant is simply me defining what I'm calling a super trooper, especially now that I'm out of the workplace, right, where I have some perspective, and whether I think this is a good or bad path to adopt for, well, I guess most people, right? So, if you enjoy some random rants from a dude with clearly no production skills, like, subscribe, share, comment, or whatever. I'll be great regardless what you guys do, because I just do these for funsies. Hit that bell icon. I have no idea where that is, but I assume it's somewhere on this website. And I'm asking you guys to do something that I don't know, because I am a casual hypocrite about that minor internet detail. First, we gotta define our terms, right? What is a super trooper? Okay, this is what I think it boils down to. Someone who prioritizes outworking other people more than, well, most, right? Look. While I was in my career, I've never thought of myself as the smartest guy in any of those places, okay? Realistically, I'd like to say I put myself in the top 5 or 10% maybe, okay? Now, that could just be I'm being very generous about myself, like most people, right? But I think, for me, the proof is in the pudding, so to say. After all, I am retired, and I know my net worth, at least as a household, because, wifey deserves half the credit here. At least in terms of that, I'm in that range, top 5 to 10%, okay? So in life overall, I know I'm doing pretty well. But at any specific workplace, I am not so proud as to claim that I'm literally the best. So then where does my pride in my work stem from primarily? Now, I know I'm not, if I can't be the smartest, then at least let no one outwork me, okay, in terms of effort. This, I think, is the defining characteristic of what I call a super trooper. I know I'm like that, and I know my wifey's like that too. She is still kind of like that even today, because that's a personality trait that, you've developed over time, right? I mean, I thought of this topic because my wife is still stressing herself out about optimization efforts at her volunteer gig. My goodness. I mean, God bless her, right? She's not even getting paid, and she's thinking about how much she can make other people's lives easier. Think about that. So then, the follow-up point is logically, is this designation a positive or a negative, right? I'm always going to cover the worst-case scenario first, so let's think about how having these super trooper kind of tendencies might be very awkward for you at any given workplace, right? It's probably easy to imagine that you might get abused for wanting to outwork any and everyone else. After all, what's to stop simply more work from being dumped onto your plate, right? Since you're willing to do it, right? Now, I admit this is a real concern, but I don't think this is a deadly one if even if you have this urge to please and simply do more when asked, right? The real trick here is that you have to pick your poison. Like, what I'm saying is that, yes, super troopers do more than needed, and most of the time do so without complaint. But if you're a smart dude or lady, willing to do more doesn't mean willing to do more of anything, okay? But that you should be willing to put in extra effort on whatever task you think will actually help you in your life goals, right? Now, those goals might be you want to learn more skills, buff up your resume, right? Or if you know, something repetitive, but a project that the bosses actually care about, but yeah, go for that, okay? So I think the real danger here is that you as the employee needs to apply some critical thinking, right? As to what tasks to take on. And it is much more helpful, I think, when you have these super trooper tendencies to, work with a reasonable type of management, because those people can tell you how to move forward, right? I think obviously we've been talking about the negatives, but the positives is very clear, okay? You will learn more and you will be able to, transform extra work into extra skills usually, and your value as an employee and probably as a person will also increase, right? Either at your current or future employer. So that is something, I think it's super obvious, right? You work more, people are going to respect you, generally speaking. So, to my final point, right? Do you guys think, in my limited audience, are you one of these suckers, aka bestest of workers yourself? And if so, I am curious what your experience is like. Like, do you have the type of coworker or a management that actually helps to maintain your passion for work without, burning yourself out, right? Because look, I have had a whole bunch of employers, and I've definitely had bosses that simply wanted to dump like repetitive junk work on me. In those circumstances, I get it, right? I just turn off. I ignore and do the minimal because I know my efforts won't turn into anything, right? But at the same time, I have been lucky enough to work at a couple of places where I've had great bosses, and if I pick my battles, my efforts and will turn into some sort of rewards, right? So there's some alignment here, right? I don't deny that luck definitely is a factor in that type of success, right? But that's a factor that nobody can ever control. So all we can do is align ourselves to take advantage whenever those few moments of transformational opportunity comes across our paths, right? So I'm curious as to, are you guys seeing that? Is that super uncommon? I mean, I can only judge by my own anecdotal experience. So for me, it already happened. So I think it's possible. But I'm curious as to, in the wider world, if that's the case, right? In conclusion, now, really my question for the audience on the internet is like, is there a more modern term than what I'm using, right? I'm guessing there probably is, and I just don't know it because I haven't been deep in that office work for almost like a decade now, right? I call myself a super trooper, and I was one, and I am quite proud of that designation, right? We can't all be the smartest guy in the room, but I believe most of us can simply, suck it up and put in more hours. Remember, I'm not saying that you should put in hours for any type of work, right? But do what actually moves the dial. So tell me, am I off my rockers? Are you guys part of the Super Trooper gang? I mean, I'm pretty sure I stole that term from the movie Super Troopers, but you know what I mean. Like, totally different context. I don't think they can sue me for that. Cheers. A la prochaine.